Either you go to a nursing home, or you'll sleep on the street, my daughter shouted, staring at me with hatred in her eyes. Her husband smiled and added, Even though you bought this house, you old bum, I won't stand for you stinking up the place. I silently packed my only suitcase, went out onto the porch, and dialed a number. An hour later, the rotors of a helicopter roared over their perfect neighborhood. A man in an expensive suit, known throughout Florida, stepped out of it. When they realized who had come for the old homeless man, their faces turned pale. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The taxi's taillights disappeared around the curve, leaving me alone on the perfect sidewalk with my single suitcase. Everything I owned fit in that bag now. Everything else had burned. Nicole's house, the house I'd bought her, rose before me like something from a magazine. White columns, custom stonework, that imported door handle she'd spent 3 weeks selecting. Royal Palm Bay, they called this neighborhood. I'd signed the check 5 years ago. $1.2 million. Wedding gift. The best I could give my only child. I climbed the porch steps, each one a memory. I'd helped Brad stain these boards the summer they moved in. My knees had hurt for a week after. Before I could knock, the door opened. Nicole stood there, backlit by the chandelier. I remembered her squealing over at the design showroom. She didn't smile. Dad, you're here. Not, come in. Not, are you okay? Just acknowledgement of my existence. Nicole, honey, I know this is sudden, but Brad and I talked. My daughter crossed her arms, her body blocking the entrance. This isn't a good time. Our life here is complicated right now, you understand. The humid Florida air pressed against my back. Somewhere down the street, I heard children laughing in a pool. The jasmine in her planter smelled exactly like smoke, and for a moment I was back in my burning kitchen, flames eating through the walls I'd painted myself. Sweetheart, my house is gone. I just need a room for a few weeks. 2, 3 at most. There are senior living facilities with excellent care. She delivered it like a rehearsed line, probably Brad's words, or extended stay hotels. You have insurance, right? I set the suitcase down. My hand shook slightly, fatigue or something else. Nicole, I bought you this house. You remember? 5 years ago, wedding gift, $1.2 million. Her jaw tightened. You bought it 5 years ago. It's our house now. We've made it ours. The mortgage, the renovations, the life we built here. What mortgage? I bought it outright. She looked past me, not meeting my eyes. Things change. Look, I'm not asking you to understand our finances. The answer is no. I'm sorry, but that's final. I'm not asking to move in permanently, just until... I said no. Behind her, I heard footsteps. Brad appeared, his hand landing possessively on Nicole's shoulder. He wore a polo shirt that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. Look, Grover, let me be straight with you. He stepped forward, and Nicole moved aside. I don't care who bought what 5 years ago. This is our home, and I'm not having some old homeless guy camping out on our couch. The words hit like a physical blow. Old homeless guy. I was his father-in-law. I'd shaken his hand at their wedding, welcomed him into the family, given them a palace. Homeless guy? My voice came out quieter than I intended. I'm your father-in-law. My house burned down this morning. Yeah, well, you've got insurance money coming. Use it. There's a Marriott down the highway. Brad's hand moved to the door. We're busy people. We've got plans. Through the gap, I could see into their living room. Tommy's toys scattered near the TV. My grandson, who I hadn't seen in 4 months, despite living 30 miles away. On the wall, I spotted Nicole's college graduation photo, the one I'd taken, the degree I'd paid for. Nicole, please. I looked past Brad to my daughter. I'm your father. I raised you. I gave you everything I'm sorry. Her voice wavered for half a second. I really am. But this is our decision. We're done here. Brad began closing the door while I was mid-sentence. Nicole! The door shut. The deadbolt clicked with a sound like breaking bones. I stood there, hand half raised to knock again. I couldn't move. My brain refused to process what had just happened. The fire this morning, the fire chief's words, You're lucky to be alive, Mr. Carter, but you can't stay here. Not for months. The Red Cross hotel room, the single change of clothes I'd salvaged from my car, the phone call to Nicole where her long pause had told me everything but I'd come anyway because she was my daughter, and daughters don't abandon their fathers on the street. Except mine just had. I lowered my hand. Slowly, my legs folding like they didn't quite remember how. I sat down on the porch step. The concrete was still warm from the day's heat. I placed my suitcase beside me, my hand resting on its handle. Everything. This bag held everything. The porch light, the one I'd installed when they moved in, standing on a ladder while Nicole held it steady, her laughing about my terrible handwriting on the instruction manual, cast a yellow circle around me. Through the window, I saw Brad and Nicole moving around inside. Their voices reached me, muffled. Arguing? Celebrating? I couldn't tell. My phone buzzed. Insurance company. Third call today. I stared at the screen, then at the address plaque beside the door. I'd given them that as a housewarming gift. Solid brass, their names in elegant script. The Morrison family. Not Carter Morrison, just Morrison. I remembered house hunting with them, Nicole's excitement building with each property. The moment we'd walked into this one, she'd grab my arm. "This is it, Dad. This is the one." I'd toured it with the realtor while they waited outside, doing the math in my head. Could I afford it? It would take a significant chunk of my retirement savings. But her joy, I hadn't seen her that happy since before her mother and I divorced. I told them over dinner that night, "It's yours. Wedding present." Nicole had cried, thrown her arms around me right here in this doorway the day they moved in. "Best father in the world. I'll never forget this, Dad. Never." She'd forgotten. The custom door handle, brushed nickel, not brass, she'd been so particular, gleamed in the porch light. How many hours had we spent at that design showroom? She'd wanted everything perfect. I'd wanted her happy. Something inside me was breaking, but slowly, like ice cracking under gradual pressure. I pulled out my phone again, scrolled to this morning's call log, the one I'd made from the Red Cross Hotel, sitting on a strange bed, smelling of smoke and fear. "Dad?" Nicole had answered on the fourth ring, her voice distant. "Nicole, honey, something happened. There was a fire. The house is gone. Everything. I'm okay, but I need—" "A fire? Oh, I'll have to discuss with Brad." "Discuss what?" "I need a place to stay while insurance sorts everything out." This is a lot to process. Her tone had been so careful, so controlled. "I'll call you back, Dad. This is a lot." She'd never called back. I'd waited 3 hours, then took the taxi here anyway. Some stupid, stubborn part of me had believed seeing me in person would change things. I pulled my knees up, wrapped my arms around them. 63 years old, sitting on a porch like a teenager locked out past curfew. The neighborhood was settling into evening, lights in windows, families visible through glass. A man walking his dog glanced at me, then away quickly. In the house next door, someone was cooking. The smell of garlic and butter drifted across the perfect lawn. My stomach reminded me I hadn't eaten since breakfast, before the smoke alarm started screaming. Inside Nicole's house, their house, I had to stop calling it hers, a light switched off, then another. They were going about their evening, dinner maybe, Tommy's bedtime routine, life continuing as if I wasn't here, as if I'd never existed at all. The weight of that closed door pressed against my chest, heavier than any burden I'd ever carried. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the sky to darken from purple to black. Long enough for my legs to go numb. Long enough to understand that no one was opening that door. The first raindrop hit my forehead like an accusation, then another. Within seconds, the sky opened up. Typical Florida summer storm, violent and sudden. Water poured off the roof overhang, missing me by inches. I should have moved. Should have walked to my car, except I didn't have a car anymore. Should have called that Marriott Brad mentioned. Should have done something other than sit there while rain soaked through my shirt. But moving meant accepting this. Staying meant... what? That some part of me still believed my daughter would open that door? Thunder rolled across Royal Palm Bay. The rain intensified, slanting sideways now, drenching me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Water ran down my face, through my hair, soaking my collar. The suitcase beside me darkened as fabric absorbed water. Through the window, I watched my daughter's silhouette move across the kitchen. She gestured at something, probably still talking to Brad. Neither of them looked outside. My fingers found the groove on my left ring finger, where my wedding band had been for 15 years. 23 years since the divorce, and my skin still remembered that weight. I'd raised Nicole alone from age 5. Her mother had wanted the clean break, the fresh start. I'd wanted my daughter. I remembered a Tuesday night, Nicole maybe 8 years old, when she'd gotten sick at school. They'd called me at work. I was meeting with the Hendersons about their retirement portfolio, and I'd dropped everything. Drove her home, made soup from a can because I couldn't cook worth a damn, held her hair back while she threw up. The next day, she'd asked why other kids had moms to take care of them. I'd told her we were a team, just the two of us, and that was enough. It had been enough. For years, it had been enough. Her high school graduation played in my mind. Just the two of us at dinner afterward. A steakhouse she'd chosen. She'd been wearing the dress I'd bought her, white with blue flowers. Dad, I'm going to make you proud. Everything you've done for me, I'll pay it back by being amazing. I'd believed her. The door opened violently. Brad stood there, backlit again, his face twisted. You're still here? What the hell, Grover? I looked up, rain streaming down my face. I was just... You're making a scene. Neighbors are looking. Get off our property before I call the cops for trespassing. Across the street, a curtain moved. Someone was watching. The spectacle of the old man on the porch, soaking wet, too stubborn or too broken to leave. This is the porch I refinished for you. The words came out flat. I installed these lights. That railing, the stain on these boards is from my hands. I don't care. Brad stepped closer, his bulk filling the doorway. Leave, now. He shoved my shoulder. Not hard enough to knock me over, but hard enough. Enough to make a point. Enough to show me exactly what I was to him. Nothing. Something crystallized in that moment. Not rage, not yet. Something colder. I stood slowly, water running off my clothes. Brad was taller than me by 3 inches, but I didn't look away. I picked up my suitcase, its handle slippery in my hand, and straightened to my full height. I'm leaving. I kept my voice level, controlled. You should know, Brad. I've never been thrown out of anywhere in my life. I'll remember this. Whatever, old man. He stepped back into the warmth, the dryness, the house I'd bought. Don't come back. The door closed again. No deadbolt this time. They didn't need it. I was already gone. I walked down their perfect driveway, past Brad's Lexus, the one he'd bought after selling the Honda I'd given them as an engagement present. My shoes squelched on the wet pavement. Rain pounded my head, my shoulders, turned the world into a gray blur. The houses I passed glowed with domestic warmth. Through one window, a family at dinner. Through another, a couple on a couch, watching television. Through a third, a woman helping a child with homework. Normal people, normal lives, normal families who didn't abandon their parents on the street. I'd given Nicole everything. Everything. Private school when I could barely afford it. Working 2 jobs during her high school years. Her mother's child support had been a joke. $50 a month until she remarried, and it stopped entirely. College tuition, every penny. Her apartment after graduation, her car, her wedding, $30,000 for one perfect day, and then the house. The house that was supposed to be her future, her stability, her happiness. The wedding reception flashed through my mind. Brad pulling me aside near the bar, his hand on my shoulder, his smile wide. You're too generous, Grover. Nicole's lucky. I'd felt proud then. Now those words tasted different. Assessment, calculation, he'd been weighing my worth. I reached the neighborhood's security gate. The guard looked up from his phone, eyes widening at my drenched state. Sir, you all right? You're soaked. Need me to call someone? I collapsed onto a bench under the gatehouse overhang. Finally, dry. Or at least no new water falling on me. Steam rose from my clothes in the humid night air. No, thank you. Just catching my breath. Can't stay here all night, sir. There's a Holiday Inn about 2 miles down. I know. I pulled out my phone, wiped the screen. I'll make a call. The guard retreated into his booth, giving me privacy but watching through the glass. I scrolled through my contacts. Names blurred past. Who could I call? I had friends, colleagues from my financial planning days, but asking to sleep on someone's couch at 63 felt like admitting defeat I wasn't ready for. The past 5 years scrolled through my mind like a film. Thanksgiving, when Nicole forgot to invite me, I'd found out from Tommy's accidental mention of turkey dinner 2 weeks later. Christmas, where I'd felt like an intruder, Brad's hedge fund friends laughing at my 15-year-old Camry in the driveway, her embarrassment when I'd met her design studio colleagues, the way she'd introduced me as my father, with that particular tone that meant the connection I tolerate. Phone calls growing shorter, excuses multiplying. So busy, Dad. Work is crazy. Brad's family's visiting. Always a reason why now wasn't good. Last Christmas, little Tommy had whispered to me while Nicole was in the kitchen, his 5-year-old face serious, "Why doesn't Mommy smile when you're here anymore?" Even the child had noticed. I'd made excuses. She was building her life. She had a husband, a child, a career. She didn't need her father hovering. I'd been proud of her independence. What a fool. My thumb hovered over one contact. Warren Hayes. I stared at the name. 20 years ago, Warren Hayes had been 48 and about to lose everything. His 3 car dealerships drowning in debt, his marriage crumbling, his credit destroyed. Everyone had abandoned him. Banks, partners, friends who'd enjoyed his success but scattered like roaches when the lights came on. Everyone except me. I'd been his financial planner for 2 years before the crash. When it happened, I'd worked 60-hour weeks restructuring his debt, negotiating with creditors, finding creative solutions. I'd loaned him $15,000 from my own savings when no bank would touch him. Not because I expected it back, I'd written it off mentally, but because he had 3 kids and a wife who deserved better than their father's pride destroying them. It had taken 3 years, but Hayes Automotive Group rose from those ashes. Now Warren owned 42 dealerships across 3 states. Forbes estimated his worth at $2 billion. He'd paid back my loan with $20,000. In interest, I'd refused until he insisted, and he'd said something I'd never forgotten. "If you ever need anything, Grover, anything at all, you call me, day or night. I don't forget the people who stood when everyone else ran." I'd never called, never wanted to. I'd never been someone who called in favors or asked for help. I solved problems. I didn't create them for others. But as I sat there, water dripping from my hair onto my phone screen, everything I owned in a suitcase at my feet, watching the rain pound the perfect street of the perfect neighborhood where my daughter lived in the perfect house I'd bought her, something fundamental shifted. For 63 years, I'd been the one people called when they needed help. Warren Hayes, clients who'd lost their savings. My daughter, every time she needed something. I'd never asked for help in return, never wanted to owe anyone. Pride was a luxury I could no longer afford. I pressed the call button. Warren answered on the second ring. "Grover? Grover Carter? Is that really you?" His voice held genuine surprise, warmth I hadn't heard from anyone in days. I cleared my throat, suddenly aware of how I must sound. Wet, exhausted, desperate. "Hello, Warren. I apologize for calling so late." Don't apologize. You never call. Something's wrong. Tell me." So I did, concisely, the way I used to present financial analyses to clients. House fire that morning. Everything destroyed. Called my daughter Nicole for temporary shelter. She refused. Her husband Brad physically shoved me off their porch. Currently sitting at a security gatehouse in the rain with everything I own in one suitcase. Silence on the other end. Then, "Where are you exactly? Give me the address." "Royal Palm Bay, Boca Raton." "But Warren, I don't want to impose. I can find a hotel." "Impose?" His voice sharpened. 20 years ago, when my dealerships were failing, when I was 3 weeks from bankruptcy, when my own brother wouldn't return my calls, you sat with me for 2 days straight. You rebuilt my entire financial structure from nothing. You saved my marriage, my business, everything I had. And you never asked me for anything. Not once. So here's what's going to happen, Grover. I'm getting in my helicopter right now, and I'm coming to get you. And you're going to let me. My throat tightened. "Warren, stay exactly where you are. I'll be there in under an hour." The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, something unfamiliar stirring in my chest. Not hope exactly, something steadier. Possibility. The security guard, Roberto according to his name tag, appeared at the gatehouse window. "You okay, sir? Need anything?" "No, thank you. Someone's coming for me." "Good. Good." He retreated back inside, clearly relieved not to have a homeless man camping at his post all night. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but I was already soaked through. I checked my phone. 9:17 p.m., missed calls from the insurance company, 2 voicemails I hadn't listened to. Tomorrow's problem. Tonight, I just needed to get somewhere dry. I thought about my career. 35 years as a certified financial planner. I'd helped hundreds of clients protect their assets, structure their purchases, plan for contingencies. The Henderson's retirement portfolio that survived the 2008 crash because I'd diversified it properly. The Wong's estate that passed to their children without probate because I'd set up the right trusts. The Delacroix family who'd kept their business after the father's death because I'd structured the ownership correctly. I'd been good at my job, careful, thorough, always reading the fine print, always protecting my clients from their own optimism and ignorance. When I'd bought Nicole that house 5 years ago, had I been less careful, or had old habits prevailed? The thought nagged at me. I couldn't quite grasp the full memory, but something was there. Something about how I'd structured major purchases for clients. Something about trusts and ownership percentages, and the sound of rotor blades cut through my thoughts. Distant at first, then growing louder. Other sounds joined it. Neighbors opening doors, excited voices, someone shouting about a helicopter. I stood, picked up my suitcase, and looked up. The aircraft appeared over the roofline, navigation lights cutting through the darkness. It circled once, and I realized what Warren was doing. He was making sure everyone saw. Every neighbor, every house, every curious face pressed to windows. The helicopter descended toward the green space directly in front of Nicole and Brad's house. Not the street, not the entrance. Right there, on their perfect lawn. Roberto burst from the gatehouse, radio in hand. "We have an unauthorized aircraft landing. This is—" The helicopter touched down. Grass and leaves whipped outward in the rotor wash. Lights flicked on in houses up and down the street. I saw curtains move, doors open, phones raised to record. Warren emerged before the rotors stopped spinning. Gray suit, perfectly pressed, despite the hour. His assistant James followed with an umbrella, though the rain had mostly stopped. Warren walked directly to me, his hand extended. When I took it, he pulled me into an embrace. "Old friend," his voice carried across the lawn, "you should have called years ago." I found myself gripping his shoulder. This man I'd saved 2 decades ago, who'd just flown across South Florida at night to return the favor. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We're just getting started." He turned, still holding my shoulder, facing the house where Nicole and Brad had appeared on their porch. Nicole's hand covered her mouth. Brad stood rigid beside her, his jaw working. Behind them, little Tommy peered through the window. Neighbors had gathered on sidewalks, phones out, recording everything. Warren's voice projected with the casual authority of someone used to being heard. "You must be Nicole and Brad Morrison. I'm Warren Hayes, Hayes Automotive Group." Everyone in Florida knew that name. 42 dealerships, billions in annual revenue. Forbes list, regular. Brad tried to sound confident. "I don't know who you think you are, but this is private property." "I think I'm a man who knows what loyalty means." Warren gestured to me. "Your father-in-law, this man right here, saved my company 20 years ago. Saved my entire life. Tonight, he called me for the first time ever. Do you know why? Because his house burned down and his own daughter turned him away." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the neighbors had stopped talking. Nicole's voice shook. "You don't understand the situation." "I understand perfectly." Warren's tone remained pleasant, which somehow made it worse. "Grover, let's go. You'll stay with me as long as you need." He guided me toward the helicopter. I glanced back once. Nicole was crying. Brad's face had gone white. Their neighbors stood frozen, witnesses to a humiliation that would echo through this community for years. The helicopter seat was leather, expensive. James handed me a headset. As we lifted off, I watched the neighborhood shrink below. The perfect streets, the perfect houses, the perfect facades. From this height, it all looked so small. Warren's voice came through the headset. "My estate is 15 minutes away. Guest wing is always ready. Tomorrow we talk about what comes next." I nodded, but my mind had already moved past tomorrow morning's conversation. I was thinking about the documents I'd signed 5 years ago. the structures I always built, the protections I'd layered into every major purchase I'd ever handled. My fingers drummed against the armrest, an old habit when working through complex problems. The financial planner I'd been for 3.5 decades hadn't disappeared when I retired. Those instincts, that training, that meticulous attention to detail, they were still there. As the lights of Boca Raton spread below us, I realized something. For the first time in 24 hours, I wasn't thinking about where I'd sleep tonight. I was thinking about the documents I'd signed 5 years ago when I bought that house, the careful structures I always built, and I was wondering if the protection I'd given so many clients, I'd also given myself. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the sound of waves against sand. For a confused moment, I couldn't place where I was. Then memory returned. Warren's guest wing, a bed that cost more than my first car, sheets that felt like water. The contrast to last night's rain-soaked desperation was almost surreal. I showered in a bathroom larger than my old bedroom, found fresh clothes laid out. Warren's assistant had somehow procured my size overnight. The face in the mirror looked different, rested, alert. The fog of trauma had lifted. Warren found me on the breakfast terrace, coffee already poured. The Atlantic stretched endlessly before us, morning sun turning the water silver. "You slept?" he asked, sitting across from me. "Better than I have in months. Thank you for this." "Stop thanking me." He studied me over his coffee cup. "But I need to ask. You seem different this morning. Not defeated. Not even angry. You're thinking?" "I am thinking. About professional habits. About the way I always protected my clients' assets. And I'm wondering if the protection I gave them, I also gave myself." I set down my cup. "Warren, when you bought your dealerships back in the early 2000s, how did I have you structure the purchases?" He smiled. "Limited liability companies, asset protection trusts, careful titling. You made sure that if things went south, again, my personal assets were shielded. Why? Because that's what I did for everyone. It was automatic, reflexive. I couldn't help myself. Any major purchase, I'd build in protections." I leaned forward. 5 years ago, I was still practicing. Still that same careful planner. When I bought Nicole that house, how exactly did you structure it? Warren's eyes sharpened. The memory crystallized, perfect and complete. I created a Florida land trust, standard tool for privacy and asset protection. The trust owns 51% of the property. I'm the beneficiary. Nicole and Brad own 49% directly. Warren set down his cup carefully. "So legally, you're the majority owner." "Legally, yes. They can't sell without my consent. They can't mortgage it beyond certain limits without my approval. They can't make major property decisions without me." Did they know this when they signed? All the documents were in front of them. Nicole signed. Brad signed. He barely glanced at the papers. She trusted it was all just formalities for the gift. They saw what they wanted to see, a free house. They never read the fine print. Warren was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Richard Foster, best property attorney in Palm Beach County. He needs to see those documents." "Warren, I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm insisting. Richard, it's Warren Hayes. I need you at the estate this morning. Urgent property matter." He paused, listening. "Excellent. See you in an hour." Richard Foster arrived in a silver Mercedes, carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than the suit he wore. Mid-50s, silver hair, the kind of lawyer who intimidated opposing counsel just by existing. Warren made introductions. Richard's handshake was firm, professional. "Mr. Carter," Warren explained the basic situation. "You structured a land trust 5 years ago?" "I did. The original documents are in my safety deposit box. It survived. Different bank from where I lived. Let's retrieve them. Then we'll know exactly what we're working with." An hour later, we sat in Richard's downtown office. Documents spread across his conference table. Page after page of legal language. Property deeds, trust agreements. Richard used a yellow highlighter, marking key passages. "Mr. Carter, this is excellent work. Whoever structured this knew exactly what they were doing." "I did. 35 years as a certified financial planner. I'd never let a client make $1 million purchase without protection." Richard smiled. "Well, you protected yourself beautifully. This trust is airtight. Your daughter and son-in-law have been living in a house they don't control. He pointed to a specific paragraph. See here? Beneficial interest, 51%. And here, their signatures acknowledging the trust structure. They can't claim ignorance. It's all documented. What are my options? Richard leaned back. Several. You could demand immediate occupancy. It's your right as majority owner. You could force a sale and split proceeds according to ownership percentage. You could do nothing and let them continue living there. Or, he paused, you could inform them of the legal reality and see how they respond. Explain that last one. We send official notice that you're exercising your rights as primary beneficiary. We don't demand anything immediately. We simply establish the facts. Put them on notice that their assumptions about ownership are wrong. Let them make the next move from a position of weakness rather than ignorance. I considered this. The strategy appealed to me, measured, professional, not vindictive. How long would that take? I can have the documents prepared today. Courier delivery tomorrow morning. Richard pulled out a legal pad. This is just the opening move, Mr. Carter. Their response will inform next steps. But right now, you hold every card. They just don't know it yet. Back at Warren's estate that evening, I stood on the terrace as the sun set over the Atlantic. Warren joined me, handing me a glass of iced tea. Richard's good, Warren said. The best I've worked with. The papers arrive tomorrow morning? Friday delivery. Professional courier. They'll know it's serious. I sipped the tea, watching the ocean darken. There's something else. Brad's behavior wasn't just rude. It was desperate. Aggressive in a way that suggests he's protecting something. You think there's more going on? I spent decades reading financial stress in people's faces. Brad has it. The question is why? Warren nodded slowly. I know someone who can find out. Private investigator, former FBI, Jessica Palmer. Discreet, thorough. She's helped me before with due diligence on acquisitions. You think that's necessary? I think knowledge is power. And I think you want all the pieces on the board before you make your next move. I considered this. The financial planner in me agreed. Never make decisions with incomplete information. Set up the meeting. Already texting her. Warren smiled. Grover, can I ask you something? How do you feel? Really? I thought about that. 24 hours ago, I'd been sitting in the rain, homeless and rejected. Now I was here. Documents filed. Attorney secured. Investigation beginning. Nicole and Brad would receive their legal notice tomorrow morning. They'd learn that the house they thought they owned, they didn't control. That the father they'd dismissed as a powerless old man actually held every strategic advantage. I don't feel angry, I said finally. Anger is reactive. I feel strategic. Strategic is proactive. Warren laughed. There's the Grover Carter I remember, the man who rebuilt my entire business, because he could see 10 moves ahead. The papers would arrive tomorrow morning. Nicole would open the door expecting a package delivery, maybe something from Amazon. Instead, she'd get her first indication that everything she assumed about her life was built on sand. I felt no joy in it, no revenge-driven excitement, just the cold satisfaction of a problem being addressed systematically. For 35 years, I'd helped people protect what they'd built. Now I was protecting what I'd built. Not just the money I'd spent on that house, but something more fundamental. Dignity, self-respect, the principle that kindness shouldn't be punished. They'd taught me something valuable by closing that door in my face. Kindness is a choice, but so is justice, and I had always been better at strategy than sentiment. I woke Friday morning to the sound of waves and clarity. Warren's guest suite had given me something I hadn't realized I'd been missing for years. Actual rest. 8 uninterrupted hours. No smoke alarm nightmares. No replaying that door closing in my face. No spiraling anxiety about where I'd sleep tomorrow night. I showered, dressed in the clothes Warren's assistant had somehow procured overnight, and found myself thinking not about Nicole or Brad, but about professional habits. 35 years of structuring major purchases for clients. The Hendersons' retirement portfolio, the Wong estate, the Delacroix business succession. I'd protected hundreds of people from their own optimism and ignorance. When I'd bought Nicole that house 5 years ago, had I been less careful with myself than I'd been with them? Warren was already on the breakfast terrace, coffee poured, ocean stretching endlessly silver in the morning sun. He looked up from his phone. You slept better than you have in months. 8 hours. First time since I can't remember when. But you're not relaxed. He set down his phone. I can see your mind working. What are you thinking about? I sat across from him. Professional habits. The way I structured major purchases for every client. Limited liability companies, asset trusts, careful titling. I had rules. Never let someone make a 7-figure decision without protection. Warren leaned forward. And when you bought them that house 5 years ago, were you still following those rules? The memory crystallized, sharp and complete. I was. I always was. Tell me exactly how you structured that purchase. I took a breath. Florida Land Trust. Common tool for privacy and asset protection. The trust owns 51% of the property. I'm the named beneficiary. Nicole and Brad own 49% directly as joint tenants. Warren set down his coffee cup carefully. So legally, you're the majority owner. On every document that matters, yes. They can't sell without my consent. Can't mortgage it beyond certain limits without my approval. Can't make major decisions without me. Did they know this when they signed? All the documents were in front of them. I remember the closing. Brad kept saying, "Where do I sign next?" Nicole was crying with happiness. Didn't read anything. I explained it was for tax purposes and asset protection. They nodded and signed. I don't think they processed a word beyond, "It's your gift to us." Warren pulled out his phone. I'm calling Richard Foster. He needs to see those documents. By noon, we sat in Richard Foster's conference room downtown. The documents spread across mahogany like evidence at trial. Richard used a yellow highlighter, marking key sections with surgical precision. Mr. Carter, I've been practicing property law in Florida for 26 years. This is one of the cleanest trust structures I've seen. He looked up at me. Whoever prepared this knew every nuance of Florida Statute 689. I prepared it. Certified financial planner, 35 years handling major transactions. Then you know what this means? Richard pointed to specific clauses. This trust is registered, filed with the county, properly notarized. Your daughter and son-in-law have been living in a house where you hold controlling interest. The weight of it settled over me. Not triumph, just cold recognition. What do you want to do with this leverage? Richard asked. I considered the question. Yesterday I'd been sitting in the rain, powerless. Today I held documented proof that the house had never truly left my control. I want them to understand what they dismissed, that the old homeless guy they rejected actually holds all the cards. Then we'll see if they're interested in reasonable conversation. Richard smiled slightly. Then we inform them, officially. We send notice that you're exercising your rights as primary beneficiary. See how they respond. How long would that take? I can have documents prepared today. Courier delivery tomorrow morning. We retrieved the original trust papers from my safety deposit box at First National Bank. The box had survived, documents intact. Everything was there. Trust agreement, property deed, their signatures multiple times, dated and notarized. Richard photographed every page. Back in his office, he drafted the notification. Formal, professional, not aggressive. Simply stated facts. As primary beneficiary of the trust holding majority ownership, I had certain rights, including right of occupancy. I read it twice before signing the authorization. There was a moment, Richard saw it, where I hesitated. Was this vindictive? Too much? You can wait, Richard said. Think about it over the weekend. I looked at the documents again. The house I'd bought, the daughter who'd closed her door, the son-in-law who'd pushed me into the rain. No, I signed my name, clear and steady. They made their choice. Now they get to live with the consequences. Richard called his courier service. Documents would arrive at 9 a.m. tomorrow, Friday morning. Nicole would open the door expecting a package delivery. Instead, she'd get the first crack in her world's foundation. That evening I stood on Warren's terrace as the sun set over the Atlantic. Behind me, through French doors, Warren was on a phone call. I held a glass of iced tea, mind sharp, reviewing the pieces on the board. Tomorrow morning they'd learn the truth. Nicole would probably call, panicked or angry or both. Brad would escalate, make threats. They'd hire a lawyer, try to find some angle, some way to deny reality. But reality doesn't negotiate. The trust structure was ironclad. I'd built it 5 years ago with the same care I'd built everything in my professional life. They'd assumed I was powerless. That assumption was about to cost them everything they'd taken for granted. The courier would arrive at 9 a.m. Nicole would open the envelope expecting Amazon. Instead, she'd get her first indication that everything she assumed about her life was built on sand. I felt no joy in it, just the cold satisfaction of a problem being addressed with appropriate tools. They'd taught me something when they closed that door in my face. Dignity isn't given by others. It's maintained by yourself. And tomorrow morning, I would begin maintaining mine. Friday, 9:03 a.m. I was finishing breakfast when my phone rang. Nicole. I let it ring twice before answering. Hello, Nicole. Dad. Her voice shook between tears and rage. What is this? These papers just arrived. They say you own 51% of our house. This has to be a mistake. I set down my coffee cup. It's not a mistake. When I purchased the house 5 years ago, I structured it as a Florida land trust, standard asset protection tool. The trust owns 51%. I'm the beneficiary. You and Brad own 49% directly. Asset protection from what? From us? From any future complications. Tax issues, liability concerns, estate planning. It's what I did for every major purchase, for every client, for 35 years. I did the same for your house. But you said it was a gift, and I did buy it for you. You live in it. But I maintained legal protection. The documents you signed explained all of this. Did you read them before signing? Pause. Brad handled the paperwork. I just signed where he told me to. That's unfortunate, because they were very clear about the structure. Brad's voice in the background, sharp and demanding. Nicole said something I couldn't hear. Then Brad was on the line. Enough with this manipulation. His voice was tight with rage. You gave us this house. You can't decide 5 years later you want it back. Brad, I'm not taking anything back. The house was always structured this way. You're just finding out now. This is elder abuse, financial manipulation. We'll sue you for everything. I'm 63 and in perfect health. Elder abuse statutes don't apply. The trust structure is completely legal. If you want to sue, hire a lawyer. But I'd recommend reading those original documents first. We've put hundreds of thousands into renovations. We have rights. You have exactly the rights outlined in the trust agreement, which again, you signed. I kept my voice level, factual. If you'd like to discuss this rationally, contact Richard Foster. His number is on the letterhead. If you'd prefer to yell, find someone else. I'm done being your target. You can't just... I hung up. My hand was steady. Warren appeared in the doorway. That went well. Exactly as expected. I looked at my phone. They'll hire a lawyer by afternoon. Someone cheap and aggressive who'll send threatening letters. Richard will dismantle them with documentation. You're very calm about this. Anger is reactive. Strategy is proactive. I'm way past anger. By 3 p.m., Richard called. I received a letter from one Matthew Diaz. He's representing your daughter and son-in-law. What does it say? Lots of noise, claims of fraud, manipulation, demands you cease and desist asserting ownership. Standard intimidation tactics from lawyers who know they have no case. What are they hoping to accomplish? Exhaust you, scare you, make you think fighting will be harder than walking away. Classic aggressive representation for weak positions. How do we respond? With facts. I'll send him the original trust documents, county filing records, proof of notarization, force him to acknowledge legal reality. He'll either drop the aggressive act or prove he's incompetent. Do it. And Richard, document everything. Every communication, every response. I want a paper trail showing we were professional and they were unreasonable. Already on it. You think like a lawyer. I think like someone who's been in this profession long enough to know documentation is everything. That evening, Warren found me in his study, reviewing the day's events on my laptop, the calls, the threats, the cease and desist letter, full of empty accusations. They fought back harder than you expected, Warren said, handing me a bourbon. I accepted it this time. The day was done. Mind could rest. But not smarter. I sipped the whiskey, felt it burn warm. They're emotional. I'm strategic. That's the difference. Warren sat across from me. Brad's panic seemed extreme. It's not just about the house. I noticed that too. When people react with that level of aggression, they're usually protecting something. In my business, I've seen that pattern. Someone threatens lawsuits, yells about fraud, makes wild accusations. They're often projecting. They're the ones with something to hide. What do you think he's hiding? Financial problems, debt. Maybe he's leveraged the house somehow, planning to sell or borrow against it. Your ownership revelation blocks whatever he was planning. Can we find out? I know someone. Former FBI, now private investigator. Very discreet. Jessica Palmer. She could do a financial background check. Public records, nothing shady. I considered this. The financial planner in me understood. Never make decisions with incomplete information. Do it! If Brad's hiding something, I want to know what I'm really dealing with. Warren made the call. Jessica Palmer answered on the second ring. Warren explained the situation, then put her on speaker. Mr. Carter, her voice was professional, direct. You want a financial background check on Brad Morrison? I want to know if there's more going on than just the house. His reaction was too extreme. Understood. I'll check public records. Credit reports, property records, court filings, business registrations. If he's borrowed money, has judgments against him, or is in financial trouble, I'll find it. How long will this take? 3 days for a preliminary report. Maybe 4 for complete analysis. I'm thorough. And the cost? 5,000 retainer. If it goes over, I'll let you know before incurring additional charges. Fine. Start immediately. You'll have answers by Monday evening. After the call, my phone buzzed. Text from Richard. Diaz backed down on 2 of his threats already. Sent revised letter with softer language. They're realizing the trust is real. Next week will be interesting. I set the phone down and sipped the bourbon. 3 days until Jessica's report. 1 week, maybe 2, until Nicole and Brad's legal counsel ran out of arguments. Time was on my side now. They'd spent their ammunition, yelling, threatening, denying. None of it changed the documents sitting in Richard's office. None of it altered the trust structure I'd built 5 years ago. They were fighting reality itself. And reality, I'd learned long ago, always wins. You just have to be patient enough to watch it work. Monday evening, Jessica Palmer arrived at Warren's estate carrying a leather folder, thick enough to hold someone's entire life story, or, in this case, Brad Morrison's complete unraveling. Warren and I met her in the study. She declined his offer of wine, spread documents across the desk with methodical precision. Mr. Carter, I found everything you suspected, and more. How serious? $85,000 owed to an illegal sports betting operation. 18 months of gambling losses. He's been hiding it completely from your daughter. I leaned forward. How is he covering the payments? That's where it gets criminal. She slid a document toward me. 6 months ago, he took a second mortgage on your house for $60,000. But here's the problem. This is Nicole's signature on the mortgage application. Another document. And this is her actual signature from other documents. They don't match. Warren leaned in, studying both signatures. The difference was obvious once you looked. He forged her signature? Yes. I had a handwriting analyst confirm it. This is fraud, potentially criminal. I sat back, processing. Does Nicole know about any of this? No indication she knows anything. The monthly gambling losses, the payments to the bookie, the second mortgage, all hidden from her. The room was quiet, except for Warren's grandfather clock, ticking in the corner. I studied the evidence. Bank statements showing Brad's cash withdrawals. Photographs of him meeting with someone Jessica identified as the bookie. Credit card statements showing the financial spiral. What else? I asked. He's 2 months behind on payments to the bookie. That's $7,000 owed on top of the original debt. The operation is pressuring him. Legal threats, exposure risks. He's financially cornered. I called Richard Foster. He arrived within the hour, still in his suit, from some evening event. Reviewed Jessica's evidence with the same surgical precision she'd used organizing it. Grover, this is mortgage fraud. In Florida, forging someone's signature on a mortgage document is a third-degree felony, meaning up to 5 years in prison, plus restitution to the bank, plus civil liability to Nicole since he forged her signature on a debt instrument. Who would prosecute? The state could once they find out. The bank could press charges when they discover the fraud, or Nicole could file criminal charges herself. And if I report this to authorities? Richard's expression was carefully neutral. Brad would likely be arrested, charged, probably convicted given this evidence, but Nicole would lose her husband. Your grandson would lose his father, at least temporarily, and your daughter might blame you for it. I stood, walked to the window overlooking the dark ocean. Behind me, Warren and Richard waited. What would you do? I asked Richard. I'm a lawyer, not a father. I can tell you the legal options. The moral choice is yours. I turned back. If I send Brad to prison, who really suffers? Not just him. Nicole loses income. They need both salaries. Tommy loses his father. Nicole would be humiliated, financially devastated, and she'd blame me. So what's the alternative? Warren asked. I tell Nicole the truth. Give her the evidence. Let her decide about her own life. She might stay with him, Warren warned. People forgive a lot when divorce seems harder. Maybe. But at least she'll know. She'll have the information to choose. Right now, she's living in a lie. I looked at Richard. Truth is its own form of justice. Richard nodded. Then we prepare a package. Everything Jessica found. We send it to Nicole directly. I spent the next hour writing a note to my daughter, draft after draft, trying to find words that showed care, not vindictiveness. Warren read the final version. Your husband has been gambling illegally for 18 months. He owes $85,000. He forged your signature on mortgage documents. I'm not sharing this to hurt you or to interfere in your marriage. I'm sharing this because you deserve the truth. What you do with this information is entirely your choice. Better, Warren said. That sounds like a father who cares, not revenge. Richard prepared the package that night. We'd send it to Nicole's design studio office. Private, away from Brad. She'd receive it Tuesday morning. When Nicole confronts Brad with this evidence, Richard warned, he'll come after you. Legally, personally, every way he can. What can he actually do? Nothing substantial, but he'll try. Claim invasion of privacy, harassment, maybe defamation. None of it will stick. You obtained this legally, it's all true. You're sharing it with your daughter, who has a right to know. So we send it and wait for the explosion. Essentially, yes. But this explosion needed to happen. That marriage was built on lies. Tuesday morning, early, I stood on Warren's beach watching sunrise over the Atlantic. The courier had left an hour ago with the package. It would arrive at Nicole's office by 10. She'd open it during her morning coffee, expecting fabric samples or client proposals. Instead, she'd find evidence that her marriage was built on lies. My phone was in my pocket, ringer on maximum. The call would come. It had to. The sun broke the horizon, turning the ocean gold. Behind me, Warren's estate was quiet. Richard was on standby. Jessica's work was done. The evidence was in motion. I'd done what I could. The truth was unstoppable now, like the tide coming in at my feet. By noon, Nicole would know everything. What she did with that knowledge, whether she'd see it as love or betrayal, was beyond my control. I'd learned in 63 years that you can't make people choose wisely. You can only give them the information to choose honestly. I checked my watch. 7:15. Less than 3 hours until the package arrived. I walked back toward Warren's house. There was nothing to do now but wait. The call came at 12:30. Dad! One word, but her voice was destroyed. Crying, angry, lost. Nicole, what do you need? Is it true? All of it? The gambling, the money, Her voice broke. My signature. He forged my signature. Yes, I'm sorry. 18 months. She was crying openly now. 18 months of lying. Every single day. And I defended him. I fought you to protect him. I closed my eyes. Nicole. He forged my name, Dad. He put our house at risk. Tommy's home. A long pause, then, can you come here? I'm going to confront him. I need my father. Give me 20 minutes. The drive from Delray Beach to Boca Raton felt symbolic. Same route as the helicopter flight that had rescued me from their porch. The last time I'd come to this house, they'd closed the door on me. This time Nicole had asked me to come. She met me at the door, eyes red, but face set with determination. He's not here yet. I told him to come home. There's an emergency. Tommy's at a friend's house. She led me inside. First time I'd been past that doorway since buying them the house. The evidence was spread across the dining table like an indictment. Brad arrived 20 minutes later, saw my car in the driveway, hesitated, then came inside. What's he doing in my house? Nicole's voice was ice. Look at this. His face went through stages. Confusion, recognition, panic, denial. That's fake. He fabricated this to break us up. This is our bank, Brad. These are our mortgage papers. Nicole's hand was steady, pointing at documents. This is your signature, and this is supposedly mine. Except I never signed this. You must have forgotten. We signed so many. I didn't forget. You forged my name. Brad spun toward me. You hired spies to dig into our lives. I hired investigators to understand why you were so hostile. Now I know. You couldn't risk anyone looking closely at your finances. The gambling was under control. I was managing it. Nicole's laugh was bitter. $85,000. 2 months behind on payments. That's management. I was fixing it. The second mortgage was to pay it off. By forging my signature. Brad, you committed fraud, using my name, without telling me. Nicole stood. I want you out. Now. This is what he wanted. Brad looked at me desperately. You planned this from the start. I kept my voice level. No. What I wanted was for my daughter to know the truth. What she does with it is her choice. And she's chosen. Brad left. Packed a bag, took his keys, drove away to some motel he could barely afford. Evening. Nicole made tea in the kitchen Brad had renovated with money from the forged mortgage. We sat in her living room, quiet, peaceful in a way it hadn't been in years. I thought this was everything, she said, looking around. This house, this neighborhood, this life. But it was all built on lies. It's just a house. You and Tommy. That's family. That's what matters. She cried then. Not devastated crying, relief crying. Dad, I'm sorry for how I treated you. When you came to our door with one suitcase, everything you owned, I turned you away. That's my shame. You were manipulated. No, don't make excuses for me. I made the choice. I chose appearances over family. Brad fed that shame, yes, but the choice was mine. I took her hand. And now you're choosing differently. That's what matters. How can you not hate me? Because you're my daughter. Because you fought your way back to reality. That takes courage. What happens now? With the house? We'll figure something out. Something fair. Something that protects you and Tommy. We talked until midnight. Made plans. Not revenge plans. Recovery plans. Nicole would file for divorce in the morning. The house would go on market within 2 weeks. Brad would face consequences, but not prison time. Nicole decided against pressing charges on the forgery. I want him gone, she said, but I don't want Tommy visiting him in prison. I understood that. It wasn't weakness. It was grace. As I drove back to Warren's estate, I thought about the days ahead. Brad would make noise, try legal maneuvers, maybe threaten more. But he was defeated. Nicole was clear-eyed now. Tommy would be protected. This wasn't vengeance. It was restoration. Of family, of honesty, of respect. The hard part was over. Now came the work of rebuilding. Thursday morning, Richard's call came earlier than I expected. Grover, Brad just listed your house for sale. I was making coffee at Warren's kitchen counter, set down the mug carefully. He what? Listed the property this afternoon. Price is $1.1 million, way under market, fast closing scheduled. And here's the critical part. He forged signatures on the listing agreement, yours and Nicole's. Can he actually sell it? Not legally. He doesn't own majority interest. But if we don't stop this immediately, some buyer might get caught in the mess. I'm filing an emergency injunction tonight. We'll have a hearing tomorrow. I looked out at the ocean. Brad was cornered, desperate, making his final mistake. How desperate is he? Extremely. This is someone with no other options trying to grab cash and disappear. Then let's make sure he doesn't get the chance. Friday morning, Palm Beach County Courthouse. I sat beside Richard in the gallery, watching Brad arrive with Matthew Diaz. Brad looked terrible, unshaven, same clothes as days ago, eyes hollow from no sleep. The judge reviewed documents for 15 minutes. When she looked up, her expression was granite. Mr. Morrison, I'm looking at a Florida Land Trust document showing 51% ownership by Mr. Grover Carter. According to Florida law, you cannot sell property where you hold minority interest without majority owner consent. Did you have Mr. Carter's written consent? Brad hesitated. He gave verbal... Written consent, Mr. Morrison. Do you have it? No, but... Then this sale is illegal. Injunction granted. The listing is to be removed immediately. The judge paused, looking at additional documents. Furthermore, I'm seeing allegations of forged signatures on previous mortgage documents. Mr. Morrison, you should speak with an attorney about those allegations. After the hearing, Diaz pulled Brad aside. Their conversation was brief, heated. Diaz walked away, shaking his head. Brad stood alone in the courthouse hallway, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Saturday morning, Nicole asked to meet. We chose an oceanfront cafe in Delray Beach. Neutral territory, peaceful. She arrived nervous, hugged me before sitting. First real embrace in 5 years. Dad, I need to say this. No interruptions. Let me get it out. I nodded. When you came to my door 2 weeks ago, you'd lost everything. Your house burned down. You had one suitcase, and I turned you away. The man who raised me alone, who worked 2 jobs to send me to college, who bought me that house, I closed the door in your face. Nicole, please, I need to finish. Her hands shook around her coffee cup. Brad made me ashamed of you, ashamed of my past, of not being born wealthy. He made me feel like I'd earned that life on my own, that you were just an obligation, and I believed him. I let him change me into someone who'd reject her own father. He was very good at manipulation. That doesn't excuse my choices. I chose to listen. I chose status over family. I chose comfort over integrity. She looked up, eyes wet. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I took her hand across the table. I forgive you. Completely. How? After everything I did? Because you're my daughter. Because you found your way back to the truth. Because you're here now, making it right. That's what matters. She cried then, relief, crying. We talked for 2 hours, about her divorce filing that morning, about therapy she'd started, about Tommy who missed his grandfather, about the house. What happens now? She asked. We sell it. Richard says we'll get 1.3, maybe 1.35 million. And then we pay off all the debts. What's left? We split 60-40. She looked confused. 60-40? Based on the trust percentage? No. 60% to you. 40 to me. Her eyes widened. Dad, that's not fair to you. You own the majority. Fair is giving you enough to buy a new house and start fresh. Fair is making sure Tommy has stability. I need compensation for my burned house, yes. But I don't need to take everything from you. I don't deserve this. Maybe not. But Tommy deserves a home, and you deserve a chance to rebuild without Brad's mistakes crushing you. I squeezed her hand. That's what I'm giving you. A chance. That evening, Warren found me on his terrace watching the sunset. Richard called me. Court granted the injunction. Brad's attempt failed completely. It's over then. You won? He handed me a bourbon. How do you feel? Tired, satisfied. A little sad for Nicole having to go through this. You gave her 60% of the proceeds. That's generous. It's just, she's not the one who gambled, forged signatures, tried to sell the house illegally. She was deceived as much as I was. Some men in your position would take everything. Taking everything would be revenge. I wanted justice. I sipped the bourbon. There's a difference. You're a better man than most, Grover. I'm just a father who got his daughter back. That's worth more than any house. The next week moved quickly. House listed Tuesday, offers by Thursday. Closed the following Tuesday for $135 million. After mortgages, debts, and fees, $890,000 remained. Nicole received $534,000. I received $356,000, more than enough to repair my house with plenty left over. Brad moved to a cheap apartment, got a job as a regular car salesman at a dealership across town. Not management, just sales floor. His real estate license was suspended pending investigation. I didn't see him again, didn't need to. My fight had never been with Brad, it had been for Nicole, and I'd won her back. Tuesday, August 26th. The closing took 30 minutes to finalize 2 weeks of chaos. Richard handled everything professionally. Nicole and I signed documents. Brad's signature came via his new attorney. He didn't show up in person. Money transferred electronically by end of day. Nicole called me that evening, voice thick with emotion. It's real. I actually have a fresh start. You always deserved one. Wednesday, I helped Nicole move into her new house. She'd found a 3-bedroom in a quiet Delray Beach neighborhood for $425,000, smaller than the Boca Raton showcase, but it had character. A backyard, good schools nearby for Tommy. I arrived with Warren's truck, carried boxes, assembled Tommy's bed. My grandson ran through the house, thrilled about his new room, the tree in the backyard, the neighborhood kids he'd already met. "Grandpa, can I get a dog now?" he asked. Nicole laughed. "We'll see." In the backyard, Nicole showed me a small garden area. "Remember when I was little and we had that tiny yard where you taught me to garden?" "I remember." "I want to teach Tommy, the way you taught me." She paused, "before I forgot where I came from." We planted tomatoes that afternoon, working together in the dirt, talking about her therapy, her plans to restart her design business on her own terms, her hopes for Tommy. The conversation flowed naturally, easy. "This feels right," she said, wiping dirt from her hands. "Simple. Real. Simple things usually are the best things." Thursday evening, exactly 2 weeks after the fire that changed everything, I invited Nicole and Tommy to dinner at my house. Repairs were complete, better than before. Insurance plus my settlement left me comfortable, secure. Tommy burst through the door, immediately spotting my old chess set on the bookshelf. "Grandpa, can you teach me to play?" We set up the board while Nicole cooked. She'd insisted. Tommy was smart, caught on quickly. We played while pasta sauce simmered in the kitchen. "This game is hard," Tommy said, studying the board. "Best things usually are, but you're getting it. See? You just trapped my knight." "I did. You did. You're thinking ahead. That's good." Over dinner, pasta, salad, Nicole's homemade garlic bread, we talked about the week. Tommy's excitement about school starting, his soccer team, whether Grandpa would come to games. "Every single one," I promised. After dinner, Tommy in the living room watching TV, Nicole and I sat on the back porch. "Dad, I need you to know, I'm not just sorry for turning you away. I'm sorry for the 5 years before that. The times I didn't invite you to holidays. The times I made excuses why you couldn't visit." Her voice caught. "The way I introduced you to Brad's friends, like you were someone I had to apologize for. You were trying to fit into a world that wasn't yours. That's no excuse. I forgot what mattered." She looked at me. "But I won't forget again. I'm in therapy twice a week. Reconnecting with old friends I'd abandoned. Tommy and I visited his other grandparents last weekend, maintaining that relationship for his sake, not letting Brad's mistakes cut off more family. You're doing the work?" "I am. And Dad?" She took my hand. "Thank you for not giving up on me." "Never would." From inside, "Grandpa, your move." We returned to the chess game. I watched Nicole watch us. Her father and her son bent over the board together, engaged in the oldest of competitions. She took a photo on her phone. Later, after they left, Warren called. "Heard the house closed. Everything settled?" "Everything. So it's over. 2 weeks from fire to resolution. Felt longer." "You know what you did, Grover? You stood up for yourself without losing yourself. Fought back without becoming cruel. Won without destroying. That's rare. I had help. Couldn't have done it without you. 20 years ago you taught me that bankruptcy isn't the end. It's a reset button if you're smart about it. 2 weeks ago I got to return the favor. We're even now." "We're friends now. That's better than even." Warren laughed. "Yeah, it is." 1 month later, late September. Thursday night dinner had become routine, alternating houses, Nicole and me trading cooking duties, Tommy improving at chess every week. Tonight at my place, Tommy immediately challenged me to a game. We were evenly matched now. Nicole brought homemade apple pie, first time she'd baked in years. Over dinner we talked about life's small details. Tommy's soccer goal last Saturday, Nicole's new design client, my newest consulting case. I'd started part-time work again, helping people plan their financial futures. 3 clients already, word spreading through Warren's network. After dinner, washing dishes together, Nicole suddenly hugged me from behind. "Thank you, Dad, for not giving up on me." "Never would." "Grandpa, your move." Later, after they left, I stood on my back porch. The house was quiet. Not lonely quiet, peaceful quiet. My phone held their messages. Nicole's text, "Love you, Dad. See you Sunday." Warren's, "Golf this weekend?" Richard's email, "Final paperwork attached. Pleasure working with you." I thought about 2 weeks in August that changed everything. The fire, the closed door, the rain, Warren's helicopter, Nicole's apology, Brad's defeat, and now this. Thursday night dinners with my family. Justice isn't about destruction, it's about restoration. Taking what was broken and putting it back together, not the way it was, but the way it should have been. Nicole wasn't the daughter who'd turned me away anymore. She was the daughter who'd found her way back. Tommy wasn't the grandson I'd been kept from. He was the grandson I'd get to watch grow up. And me? I wasn't the homeless man sitting in the rain. I was the man who'd stood up for himself without losing himself, who'd fought back without becoming the villain, who'd won without needing to gloat. The fire had taken my house, but it had given me something better, my family back, my dignity intact, my future bright. I went inside. Tomorrow I had a client meeting. Saturday, Tommy's soccer game. Sunday, family dinner at Nicole's house. At 63, I was just getting started. The house in Boca Raton was gone, but I didn't need it anymore. I had everything that mattered right here. Home isn't a building, it's the people who fill it, and mine was finally full again. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.